Hello everybody and welcome to the Friday edition of Video Clips. Just a reminder, if you're interested in a career that involves telling the people the truth about healthcare, that's the business we're in. Informed decision making, telling people the truth about healthcare, helping them understand all of this. So if you'd like to be the person who's first on board to understand how ridiculous all of this is, we can train you to be that way. And you might want to do it for a living like I do, or you might just want to do it for your own benefit. PamPopper@msn.com is my email address. So today, I always on Friday focus on consequences on real people. And I have some things to share with you that are heartbreaking and that you need to know about. So please continue to watch. Here goes. My 11-year-old daughter injured her foot, pinky toe, this week. I took her to a local hospital to get x-rays, and I've never experienced such a quick turnaround for an ER visit in my life. It was empty. She's got allergies and was supposed to have gotten build-up allergy shots to 3 times per week. Because of COVID-19, she's only going to be allowed to get 1 shot per week, extending her build-up period 3-fold. She hasn't been allowed to see her orthodontist. She misses her friends. She's only seen her sister, her father's younger daughter, once every 2 weeks. She's the only other child she's been able to interact with since our district's spring break started March 7th. Her father's cardiac rehab was canceled. Cardiac rehab. I couldn't have my regular blood work done to monitor my type 1 diabetes management. I had to settle for a televisit. Here's the next thing. One thing no one seems to be outraged or talking about is the impact of the lockdown on the dying. Be it from COVID, another virus, infection, or trauma, the restrictions currently in place from COVID have had heartbreaking ramifications for those who are dying and their families. In my area, hospitals now allow no visitors, period. On pediatric floors, 1 parent. This is even for a dying child. I find it horrific that any person would have to die alone, or that parents would have to choose who could be there for their child in the last moments of life. It is heartbreaking. They won't even offer the option to have family members at the bedside, even completely garbed up from head to toe. I have children over and under 18, so if my older children were to get into an accident, I wouldn't be able to be by their side. One kiddo is a senior, 19-year-old, an adult, but still a child in high school. She would be alone if hospitalized because she's older than 18. I have an autistic son who's thankfully still 17, but I think about other parents with special needs children who need their care throughout adulthood and the harm it would cause to separate them from parent caregivers. More so, I think about what if this kind of lockdown were to happen again. That scares me more than the virus. And we have one couple that just makes me cry every time I think about it. She has Alzheimer's disease, and they've been married 61 years. He's not allowed to spend time with her in the hospital. Of course, she's agitated and scared and doesn't know where she is. And he is beside himself. He is not able to spend time with her in the hospital. What kind of public health officials do this to people? What kind of cruel, sadistic, god-awful, thoughtless people are involved in this kind of thing? England and Wales had a record number of deaths in a single week. This came from a news source, 6,000 more than average for early April. Not due to COVID, according to the Office for National Statistics. It's due to non-COVID-19 deaths because people can't get care. So there were 3,475 deaths from COVID and 6,000 deaths from non-COVID people who couldn't get care. So the cure really is worse than the disease at this point in time. Tom Denning, professor of dementia research at the University of Nottingham, said that there were likely to be many reasons for the increases in other deaths, which include people feeling like they can't have surgeries, they can't call an ambulance. Serious conditions may present too late for effective treatment, he said. Another possibility is that people who have cancer or chronic kidney disease are unable or unwilling to attend the hospital on the usual regular basis, so their treatment regimes may lapse. Delayed referrals for patients with potentially serious conditions are also likely to play a role. So while we're waiting for the COVID patients who never came, we're not delivering care to the patients who have problems because we are busy waiting for the COVID patients who never came. This is in the UK and Wales. Remember on Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day it was, I was reading from a person who wrote to me from England saying they're furloughing all the workers. So we don't have anybody available to give you your cancer treatment, but we're waiting for COVID. I think they have the same mantra as our health department here in Ohio. Got to flatten the curve, got to keep the curve flat. People are dying, we've got to flatten the curve. People can't get cancer surgery, flatten the curve. People are starving, yes, flattening the curve. It just defies. And here's another one. My dad in Wisconsin just told me that he has cancer in his bones and lymphatic system. The nurse mentioned it over the phone when he asked for pain meds. That's how he found out. He can't get in to see a doctor to discuss treatment until May 21st. Today is April 25th. And they told him he may need to cancel that. My heart is broken and I'm so angry. He had high PSA numbers recently following a prostate cancer diagnosis 8 years ago, and at that time, he had radioactive seeds implanted. So this time he had a lot of testing done, but couldn't get anyone to talk to him about the results because of the lockdowns. That is until a nurse blurted it out, not realizing yet that he didn't know. This is all so very, very wrong. I share your videos every day, and the information has been so helpful. All right. The pandemic's hidden victims, sick or dying, but not from coronavirus. That was actually the headline of an article published online by a reporter who must be doing the unthinkable thinking. People are just not thinking right now. So this Maria Kafalis considers her husband, Patrick Carr, a forgotten victim of the coronavirus. In January, Carr, a sociology professor at Rutgers, suffered a relapse of the blood cancer he's had for 8 years. Once again, he required chemotherapy to try to bring the disease, multiple myeloma, under control. But this time, due to COVID, blood supplies were rationed and he couldn't get enough of the transfusions needed to alleviate his anemia and allow chemo to begin. Clinic visits were canceled even as his condition worsened, and he died. And then the article goes on to talk about cancer treatments that are postponed. One woman had undergone surgery for melanoma that had spread to her liver, was supposed to begin immunotherapy, but was told it would be delayed for an unknown length of time. She says, "What's going to happen to me?" This is not improving her chances. Clinical trials have been suspended. Simple but essential services have vanished, and people with diabetes or high blood pressure or those who need regular lab tests, they just can't get it. And then the last one I'll read to you here. My niece is traumatized by missing all of her high school senior year activities she looked forward to for 4 years, not to mention that she still has yet to meet the deadline to choose a college, or she had to meet the deadline to choose a college without visiting any campuses, because we know how dangerous it is for young people who rarely die of the flu to be on a college campus. Can't have that happening. The same niece's teenage boyfriend, who suffers from depression, had suddenly got so bad the past month in isolation that he said he didn't think he would make it another month and would kill himself. She grew so concerned, she contacted his mother, and he cannot get an appointment with a therapist to get medication for a few more weeks. I would be very curious to see what the rise in suicide rate will be when this is all over. I can tell you what it is in Ohio. More people dying from suicides and overdose deaths than have died from COVID. So again, once again, our public health authorities are geniuses. We figure out a way to kill more people with the cure than they're saving with the cure. It's just, I don't know how this woman in charge of our health department sleeps at night. I suspect that the only reason she can sleep at night is she's got to be so deficient in her thinking that she can't process all of this in some way, shape, or form, because it seems pretty simple to me. My son went out to a store for the first time in weeks, and he went without a mask. The cashier said she couldn't serve him if he didn't have a mask on. He was incredulous. He asked if they sold them, and she replied they were out of them. He put the items down and left, thinking he spent more time talking to her about not having a mask than if she just rang up the merchandise. He grew so irritated on the way home, he turned around and went back, took his sweatshirt off, tied it around his face, and went back to the cashier and said, "Is this okay?" She said no. A manager or coworker nearby overruled her and said it was okay. Ridiculous. I sent you an article about the rise in alcohol consumption, which you mentioned, and aside from the detrimental health consequences, it's being attributed to a rise in domestic violence. We have a lot more domestic violence, and murder rates up, in Columbus. Amy Acton must be delighted with herself to read those statistics every day. I'm sure she rushes to the newspaper to see what awful, god-awful things are happening in the state because of her ridiculous orders. It's unbelievable here, and we haven't gotten to the worst part. What do you think is going to happen when people start having their family members die because they can't get cancer treatment? They're out of money. The state sent a check, or the government sent a check for $1,200. The average apartment rent in Columbus is $1,000. And we're in the second month of the lockdown here. God only knows what they're going to do. I don't think they want to let us out. But what do you think is going to happen when these people are broke, homeless, unemployed, and hungry? We're all going to have to live in barricaded places just to keep people from coming into our houses and killing us for food. I'm not kidding. You can look at countries where this is going on, where the unemployment rate is high and people are starving. This is what goes on. I'm not over-dramatizing this, and it's already starting to happen around here. So this is public health at its best, what I'm reading to you here. aren't these great public health officials that let this happen and won't reverse course? Going back to what I said on Tuesday, they won't reverse course. The numbers are showing there was less to be concerned about, and they lock down more. Who does that? Who does that? I believe in karma. I think that the things that these people did will come back to haunt them sometime. I hope I'm alive to see it. I'm not a particularly vengeful person, but I'm angry. I've said this a lot of times. I'm angry. And not because of my own personal situation. I'm not at risk. I'm okay. I'm looking out there. Not okay. Not okay out there. And we have to do something about that. So stay tuned. We are going to do something. Announcements to come. Thank you for watching. Have a great week. Try to stay safe and sane. I think the sane part's the difficult thing based on all the things that we deal with every day. Pass this on to anybody who you think would benefit from watching it. Remember, my email address is pampopper@msn.com. I will be back to you next week with more news.